My nephew moved into our house and started filming my anxious son for TikTok content without permission, making him the joke for his 300k followers until my son had a complete breakdown, so I kicked him out. I'm a 38-year-old woman with 3 boys. Marcus is 15, Liam is 11, and Oliver just turned 7. My husband works in construction and I manage a small bookstore downtown. We live in what used to be a 4-bedroom house that my grandmother left us when she passed. It's an older place with creaky floors and a big backyard that the kids have always loved. Marcus has always been different from other teenagers. He doesn't talk much at family gatherings. He spends most of his free time building things in the garage or watching documentaries about space exploration. Last year he built a working telescope from spare parts he found at thrift stores. He's never had many friends at school, but the robotics teacher seems to really like him. He emails Marcus articles about engineering programs and college scholarships pretty regularly. Liam is the complete opposite. He plays soccer, has friends over constantly, and never stops moving. Oliver copies everything Liam does, which usually ends with something getting broken or someone needing a band-aid. My husband's brother got divorced about 8 months ago. It was nasty. His ex-wife was having an affair with someone from her yoga studio, and when everything came out, she just left. Packed her things and moved 2 states away to be with the guy. My brother-in-law was a mess. He started drinking too much and calling us at weird hours to talk about how his life was falling apart. His son Tyler is 18. Before the divorce, Tyler was a normal kid. Played baseball, got decent grades, had a girlfriend. But when his mom left, something changed. He started spending all his time on his phone. He dropped out of baseball. The girlfriend broke up with him. My brother-in-law said Tyler was on TikTok constantly, making videos and checking how many people watched them. In March, my brother-in-law called and asked if Tyler could stay with us for a while. He said he was going to a 30-day rehabilitation program for the drinking and he didn't want Tyler to be alone. I talked to my husband about it. We both felt bad for the kid. His whole world had just exploded. We figured having cousins around might help him feel less alone. Tyler moved in on a Tuesday. He brought 3 suitcases and a ring light. I didn't think much of the ring light at first. Lots of kids are into photography now. The first week was fine. Tyler was polite, helped with dishes, played video games with Liam and Oliver. But I noticed he was always filming. He'd pull out his phone during breakfast and prop it up to record himself eating cereal. He filmed Oliver playing with his toy cars. He filmed Liam practicing soccer in the backyard. Marcus stayed in his room most of the time. He came out for dinner and then went right back to whatever project he was working on. Tyler started asking him questions. What was he building? Could he show it on camera? Marcus always said no. He doesn't like being the center of attention. He barely tolerates when I take photos on his birthday. About 2 weeks after Tyler moved in, I noticed Marcus was coming home from school and going straight to his room without even grabbing a snack first. Usually he'd eat half a box of crackers while telling me about what they did in physics class. Now he just walked past me. I asked him if everything was okay at school. He shrugged and said it was fine. I asked if anyone was bothering him. He said no and closed his bedroom door. Tyler had mentioned he had around 300,000 followers on TikTok. I didn't really understand what that meant. I don't use TikTok. I barely use Facebook. But Tyler talked about it like it was a real job. He said he was making money from sponsorships and that he needed to post new content every day to keep his audience engaged. One Saturday morning, I was in the kitchen making pancakes when I heard Tyler's voice coming from upstairs. It sounded like he was talking to someone, but I knew Marcus was the only other person up there. I walked upstairs and Tyler's bedroom door was open. He had his phone set up on the ring light, pointing at Marcus's room across the hall. I asked what he was doing. Tyler said he was just filming some funny content. I looked in Marcus's room. Marcus was asleep in bed with his mouth hanging open. Tyler had apparently been filming him sleeping and making commentary about how weird he looked. I told Tyler to delete the video. He laughed and said it was already posted and had like 10,000 views. He said Marcus looked hilarious and people loved it. I told him to take it down anyway. Tyler rolled his eyes but said he would. I should have made a bigger deal about it then. I should have sat both of them down and set clearer rules. But I didn't. I just went back downstairs and finished making pancakes. A few days later, Liam showed me something on his iPad. He said kids at school were talking about Marcus. He pulled up Tyler's TikTok page and there were dozens of videos. Most of them were normal stuff. Tyler lip-syncing to songs, Tyler doing dumb challenges, Tyler rating fast food restaurants. But scattered throughout were videos of Marcus. One showed Marcus walking to the bathroom in his pajamas early in the morning. Tyler had added a filter that made him look green and bloated. The caption said something about swamp creatures before 7 a.m. Another video showed Marcus eating dinner. Tyler had zoomed in on his face while he was chewing and added a sound effect of a garbage disposal. There was a video of Marcus trying to carry his science project to the car. He tripped on the porch steps and the project fell. Tyler had filmed the whole thing and added circus music. Each video had hundreds of thousands of views. The comments were horrible. People called Marcus ugly. They called him slow. They made jokes about school shooters. They said he looked like he smelled bad. I watched video after video and my hands started shaking. This had been going on for weeks. Marcus had been going to school where everyone had seen these videos. Everyone had been laughing at him. I went upstairs and knocked on Marcus's door. He didn't answer. I opened it anyway. He was sitting on his bed with his knees pulled up to his chest. His phone was on the floor across the room like he'd thrown it. I asked him why he didn't tell me about the videos. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he said he thought if he ignored it, Tyler would get bored and stop. He said he didn't want to cause problems since Tyler was going through a hard time with his parents' divorce. I told him it wasn't his job to fix Tyler's problems by letting himself be humiliated. Marcus just stared at the wall. I went back downstairs and called my husband at work. I told him what was happening. He came home early. We both sat down with Tyler in the living room. My husband told Tyler the videos needed to come down immediately. All of them. Tyler got defensive. He said Marcus was being too sensitive. He said it was just jokes and Marcus should be grateful because his follower count had gone up since he started posting the videos. He said other people would love the exposure. I told Tyler I didn't care about exposure or followers. I told him he was bullying his cousin in his own house and putting it online for strangers to mock. Tyler said we were being dramatic. He said this was his content and his account and we couldn't tell him what to post. He said he was 18 and legally an adult. My husband stood up and told Tyler he had two options. Delete every video with Marcus in it within the next hour or pack his bags and leave. Tyler deleted the videos. But he didn't apologize. He went to his room and slammed the door. Marcus stopped going to school the next day. He said he couldn't face everyone. I called the school and talked to the principal. She said she was aware that some students had been talking about the videos, but since the bullying happened outside of school on a private social media account, there wasn't much they could do unless it continued on school property. I asked about the comments calling my son a potential school shooter. She said that was concerning, but without a specific threat. Her hands were tied. She suggested Marcus might benefit from talking to the school counselor. Marcus refused to go back to school for the rest of the week. He wouldn't eat dinner with the family. He stopped working on his projects. He just stayed in his room with the door locked. The following Tuesday, I came home from the bookstore and found Tyler filming Oliver. He had convinced Oliver to let him put makeup on his face and dress him up like a princess. Oliver was laughing and dancing around. Tyler was recording it with his phone. I told Oliver to go wash his face. I told Tyler to give me his phone. He refused. I told him I wanted him out of my house by the end of the day. Tyler called me insane. He said I was overreacting again. He said Oliver was having fun and I was ruining everything because I couldn't take a joke. I called my brother-in-law and told him to pick up his son. My brother-in-law had just gotten out of rehab 2 days earlier. He sounded tired. He said he'd be there in an hour. When my brother-in-law arrived, Tyler was already packed. Before they left, my brother-in-law asked me if we could talk. He said Tyler had told him about the Marcus situation. He said boys will be boys and maybe Marcus needed to toughen up a bit. He said the internet is rough and Marcus needed to learn to handle criticism. I told him to get out of my house. Tyler went to stay with his dad. I thought that would be the end of it. Marcus slowly started coming out of his room again. He went back to school after I had a meeting with his teachers to make sure they knew what had happened. They promised to keep an eye out for any continued harassment. But Marcus had changed. He quit the robotics club. He deleted all his social media accounts. He stopped building things in the garage. He just went to school, came home, did his homework, and went to bed. 3 weeks after Tyler left, Marcus came into the kitchen holding his laptop. He put it on the counter in front of me and showed me a screenshot from a Reddit drama forum. Someone had posted a picture of a group chat. The screenshot showed 4 people talking. One of them was Tyler. One of them was my niece Charlotte. Charlotte is 19. She's my sister-in-law Brenda's daughter. Charlotte has always been the golden child of the family. Perfect grades, perfect manners, perfect everything. She got accepted to Cornell early admission. Everyone talks about how proud they are of her. In the screenshot, Tyler had sent the video of Marcus tripping with his science project. Charlotte had responded with a bunch of laughing emojis. She wrote that she almost peed herself watching it. She wrote that Marcus was such a weird freak and it was no wonder he had no friends. She wrote that he deserved to be bullied because he acted like he was better than everyone else just because he was smart. The other people in the chat had added their own comments. Calling Marcus names. Making jokes about his appearance. Saying he probably cried himself to sleep every night. Marcus said someone from his school had found the screenshot online and sent it to him. He said Charlotte had always been nice to his face. She asked him about school. She brought him cookies at Christmas. He said he didn't understand why she would say those things about him behind his back. I looked at the screenshot for a long time. Then I asked Marcus if I could save a copy of it. He said yes. I didn't tell my husband what I was going to do. I knew he'd try to talk me out of it. I pulled up Cornell's admissions email and spent 2 hours writing. I attached the screenshots. I explained the context. I explained what Tyler had done and how Charlotte had participated in mocking and bullying her own cousin online. I explained that Marcus had developed anxiety about going to school and had given up activities he loved because of the harassment. I sent the email at 11 p.m. on a Thursday night. I didn't hear anything back for 3 weeks. I had almost forgotten about it when my sister-in-law Brenda called me screaming. She said I had ruined her daughter's life. She said Charlotte's admission to Cornell had been rescinded. She said Charlotte had been crying for 2 days straight and it was all my fault. I asked Brenda if Charlotte had told her why Cornell rescinded the admission. Brenda said they sent some ridiculous email about student conduct and community values. She said it was all blown out of proportion and Charlotte was just making jokes with friends. I told Brenda that Charlotte and Tyler had spent weeks making my son the target of public humiliation. I told her Marcus had stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped doing anything that made him happy. Brenda said I was being dramatic. She said teenage boys get over things. She said I had destroyed Charlotte's future over teenage drama. I hung up on her. Within a day, half my family was calling me. Brenda had told everyone that I sabotaged Charlotte's college admission because I was jealous of her success. She left out the part about the screenshots and the bullying. She left out the part where Charlotte called Marcus a freak who deserved to be bullied. My mother-in-law called and said she was disappointed in me. She said family should protect family and I had gone to outsiders to destroy Charlotte's opportunities. She said she didn't raise her sons to let their wives attack other family members. My husband's sister called and said I was out of line. She said what Charlotte said in a private chat was none of my business. She said I had no right to involve Charlotte's school. A few cousins reached out privately to say they understood why I did it. One of them said Charlotte had always been mean to people behind their backs and it was about time someone held her accountable. But mostly, people were angry at me. I got uninvited from a baby shower. I got removed from the family Facebook group. My mother-in-law stopped responding to my texts. Marcus asked me if I was the one who sent the email to Cornell. I told him the truth. I told him yes. He didn't say anything for a minute. Then he said, "Thank you." He said he didn't ask me to do it but he was glad I did. He said Charlotte shouldn't get to go to her dream school and live her perfect life while he couldn't even go to robotics club without having a panic attack. My husband was less supportive. He said I should have talked to him first. He said I had made an enemy of his entire family. He said there were other ways to handle this that didn't involve blowing up Charlotte's future. I asked him if he would have been okay with me doing nothing. He didn't answer. Update 1: It's been a month since I posted. I wasn't planning to update but things have gotten worse and I need to write this down somewhere. 2 weeks after Cornell rescinded Charlotte's admission, Brenda hired a lawyer. She sent a formal letter to both me and Cornell claiming that the screenshots were taken out of context and that Charlotte's words had been manipulated. The letter threatened to sue me for defamation and interference with educational opportunities. I showed the letter to my husband. He asked me if I had actually manipulated anything. I told him no. The screenshots were real. He said he believed me but he looked tired when he said it. The lawyer also sent a letter to Cornell demanding they reconsider their decision. He claimed Charlotte was being punished for private speech and that rescinding her admission violated her rights. He used a lot of legal language that I didn't fully understand. Brenda posted about it on Facebook. She wrote a long status about cancel culture and how one mistake was destroying her daughter's entire future. She said Charlotte had apologized to Marcus personally and that I was refusing to accept the apology and move forward. She said I was holding a grudge and using my son as a weapon. That was a lie. Charlotte never apologized to Marcus. She never even spoke to him about it. The Facebook post got shared by dozens of people. Family members I barely knew were commenting about how sad it was that Charlotte was being punished so severely. How she was just a kid who made a mistake. How I was being cruel and vindictive. Nobody mentioned what Charlotte actually said. Nobody mentioned the screenshots. Nobody mentioned that Marcus stopped going to school for a week because of the videos and the comments. Cornell responded to the lawyer's letter within a week. They sent a formal statement saying they had reviewed the case thoroughly and stood by their decision. They said their student code of conduct clearly prohibits harassment and bullying, and that Charlotte's behavior demonstrated a pattern of cruelty that was incompatible with their community values. They said the decision was final and would not be reconsidered. When Brenda found out, she lost it. She called me 14 times in one day. I didn't answer. She left voicemails calling me every name she could think of. She said I had ruined an innocent girl's life because I couldn't control my own son's sensitivity. She said Marcus was weak and pathetic and that's why he got bullied in the first place. My husband heard one of the voicemails. He called his sister and told her if she ever spoke about Marcus like that again, she'd never hear from him again. It was the first time he'd really defended me since this whole thing started. Brenda showed up at our house the following Saturday. She rang the doorbell over and over until my husband answered. She demanded to speak to me. My husband told her to leave. She started yelling on the front porch about how I was a vindictive person who couldn't stand to see other people succeed. She said Charlotte had worked her entire life for Cornell and I took it away from her in 5 minutes because I wanted revenge. Neighbors came out of their houses to see what was happening. My husband physically stepped outside and closed the door behind him. I watched through the window. He said something to Brenda that I couldn't hear. She screamed something back. Then she got in her car and left. My husband came back inside and said Brenda wasn't allowed at our house anymore. The situation with Charlotte got worse. She had applied to several backup schools, but when they asked why her Cornell admission was rescinded, she had to disclose the reason. Most schools have a section on their applications asking if the student has ever been subject to disciplinary action or had an admission rescinded. Charlotte had to check yes and explain what happened. 3 schools rejected her outright. 1 school accepted her but rescinded their merit scholarship. She ended up with no good options. Brenda blamed me for all of it. She told everyone in the family that I had destroyed her daughter's education and future career prospects over a stupid screenshot. She said I should be ashamed of myself. My mother-in-law called and said she thought I should apologize to Charlotte and Brenda. She said this had gone too far. She said Charlotte was suffering enough and the family needed to heal. I asked my mother-in-law if she had seen the screenshots. She said she had. I asked her what she thought about what Charlotte said. She said Charlotte was young and made a mistake in a private conversation. She said everyone says things they don't mean sometimes. I asked her if she thought Marcus deserved to be called a freak. If she thought he deserved to be told he should have no friends. She didn't answer. She just said the family was falling apart and I needed to be the bigger person. I told her I wasn't apologizing. I told her Charlotte didn't just make one mistake. She participated in an active campaign to humiliate and degrade her own cousin. She laughed at videos of him being mocked by hundreds of thousands of strangers. She encouraged it. My mother-in-law said I was being stubborn and unreasonable. She said she didn't raise her family to treat each other this way. Then she hung up. The worst part is that Marcus knows all of this is happening. He knows his college admission decision caused this huge family explosion. He came to me last week and asked if I regretted sending the email. I told him no. I told him Charlotte made her own choices and faced consequences for those choices. I told him that wasn't his fault. He said some kids at school were still bringing up the TikTok videos even though they were deleted months ago. He said people had screen recorded them and were passing them around. He said he hears people laughing when he walks down the hallway and he doesn't know if they're laughing at him or just laughing. Oliver asked me why we don't see Grandma anymore. I didn't know how to explain it to a 7-year-old. I just said we were having some grown-up disagreements and we'd see her soon. I don't know if that's true. Liam told me some of his friends' parents won't let them come to our house anymore because their moms are friends with Brenda. He asked me what we did wrong. I told him we didn't do anything wrong, but sometimes doing the right thing makes people angry. My husband and I have been arguing more. He thinks I should have handled this differently. He thinks I should have talked to Brenda privately before going to Cornell. He thinks I escalated the situation unnecessarily. I asked him what he would have done. He said he would have demanded Charlotte apologize and then let it go. He said college admissions are high stakes and I destroyed a kid's future. I reminded him that Charlotte is an adult who made adult choices. I reminded him that our son was the actual victim here. He said he knows that, but there had to be a better way. I don't think there was a better way. I think Charlotte needed to face real consequences for her actions. I think she needed to learn that cruelty has costs. But I'm starting to wonder if those costs were worth losing most of my husband's family. Brenda sent me a text last week. It was the first time she'd contacted me directly since she showed up at the house. The text said Charlotte was taking a gap year and working at a retail job to save money. It said she was reapplying to colleges for next year. It said I should be proud of myself for ruining a young woman's life. I didn't respond. Update 2: It's been 2 months since my last update. I'm writing this from my sister's house because I needed to get away from everything for a few days. The situation with Brenda got worse before it got better. About 3 weeks ago, she decided to hire a different lawyer. This one was apparently some big-shot attorney who handles high-profile cases. Brenda posted about it on Facebook, saying she'd found someone who would finally get justice for Charlotte. The new lawyer sent me a letter that was much more aggressive than the first one. It threatened a lawsuit for defamation, intentional interference with contractual relations, and emotional distress. It demanded I write a formal letter to Cornell retracting my claims and admitting the screenshots were misleading. It said if I didn't comply within 10 days, they would file suit. I took the letter to a consultation with an attorney. The consultation was free, but he said if I actually got sued, I'd need to pay a retainer of several $1,000s. He reviewed everything and told me the lawsuit would likely get thrown out because truth is an absolute defense to defamation. He said I had proof of everything I sent to Cornell and I didn't lie or exaggerate. But he also said even a frivolous lawsuit could cost me tens of thousands in legal fees. I went home and told my husband. He looked at the letter for a long time without saying anything. Then he said he'd call Brenda. He called her that night. I could only hear his side of the conversation, but he was angrier than I'd ever heard him. He told Brenda that if she sued me, he would testify on my behalf. He told her he had seen the screenshots and knew exactly what Charlotte said. He told her she was wasting her money on a lawyer because she had no case. He told her she needed to accept that Charlotte made a serious mistake and move on. Brenda apparently screamed at him for 10 minutes. Then she hung up. 2 days later, the lawyer sent another letter. This one said they had reviewed the case further and determined that pursuing litigation would not be in their client's best interest. It said they were closing the matter but reserved the right to reopen it if I engaged in any further defamatory conduct. I showed it to the attorney I'd consulted with. He laughed and said it was a face-saving withdrawal. He said the big shot lawyer had probably told Brenda the same thing my attorney told me, that she had no case and would lose badly if she tried to sue. Brenda deleted her Facebook posts about the lawsuit. She didn't post anything about why. People in the comments were asking what happened and she just ignored them. But then something else happened that I wasn't expecting. A woman reached out to me through Facebook Messenger. She said her name was Patricia and she ran a local advocacy group that dealt with cyberbullying and teen mental health. She said she'd heard about what happened with Marcus through a mutual connection. Patricia asked if Marcus would be willing to share his story at a school board meeting. She said the district was discussing updates to their bullying policies and real testimonials from students would help push for stronger protections. She said Marcus didn't have to use his real name if he didn't want to. I talked to Marcus about it. I expected him to say no immediately. Public speaking has never been his thing. But he surprised me. He said he'd think about it. 3 days later, he said yes. He said he wanted to do it. He said if talking about what happened could help change the rules so other kids didn't go through the same thing, then it was worth it. Marcus spoke at the school board meeting 2 weeks ago. He did use his real name. He talked about Tyler making the videos. He talked about the comments calling him a school shooter. He talked about how the school told him they couldn't do anything because it happened off campus. He talked about how he stopped going to robotics club and deleted his social media because he didn't feel safe. The room was completely silent when he finished. Then one of the board members asked him questions about what specific policy changes he thought would help. Marcus had actually prepared for this. He had a whole list. He suggested the school should have jurisdiction over cyberbullying even if it happens off campus when it affects students' ability to learn. He suggested mandatory education about digital citizenship. He suggested anonymous reporting systems. 2 board members took notes. One said they would form a committee to review the suggestions. After the meeting, several parents came up to Marcus and thanked him. One woman said her daughter had been through something similar and she was grateful someone was finally speaking up. Patricia asked Marcus if he'd be willing to speak at other schools in the district. Marcus said maybe. He said he needed to think about it. When we got home that night, Marcus went straight to the garage. I heard him moving things around. When I checked on him an hour later, he had pulled out his old telescope project. He was cleaning dust off the lens. Brenda found out about the school board meeting because someone tagged the local news article about it on Facebook. The article mentioned Marcus by name and included a photo of him speaking. Brenda sent me a text calling me a hypocrite. She said I was using Marcus to get attention and play the victim. She said I was obsessed with being seen as a hero while she was the one dealing with real consequences. I blocked her number after that. Charlotte sent Marcus a message on Instagram. I only know because Marcus showed it to me. She said she was sorry for what she said in the group chat. She said she was young and stupid and didn't think about how her words would affect him. She said she hoped he could forgive her. Marcus didn't respond. He just showed me the message and asked what I thought he should do. I told him it was completely up to him. I told him he didn't owe her forgiveness just because she apologized. He said he wasn't ready to forgive her. He said maybe he would be someday but not now. He said the apology felt like it came because she wanted to feel better about herself, not because she actually cared about how he felt. He deleted the message and didn't reply. My mother-in-law reached out last week. She asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed. We met at a place halfway between our houses. She apologized for not supporting me earlier. She said she had been trying to keep the peace in the family and didn't realize how much damage that was causing. She said she had finally sat down and read through all the screenshots carefully and she was horrified by what Charlotte said. She said she talked to Brenda and told her she needed to accept responsibility for how she raised Charlotte. She said Brenda didn't take it well and they weren't speaking right now. I asked her why she changed her mind. She said watching Marcus speak at the school board meeting made her realize how serious this was. She said she had been treating it like teenage drama when it was actually a case of sustained harassment that damaged her grandson. We talked for 2 hours. It didn't fix everything but it felt like a start. Marcus has been doing better. He's not back to how he was before Tyler moved in, but he's improving. He goes to school without me having to convince him. He's been working on the telescope again. Patricia asked him to speak at another school next month and he said yes. The family is still fractured. Half of them still think I'm the villain. But I'm learning to be okay with that. Update 3. It's been 4 months since I last updated. This will probably be my final post about this situation because I think we've finally reached something close to resolution, or at least as close as we're going to get. Marcus spoke at 3 more schools about cyberbullying. The last one was a high school in the next county over. He's gotten pretty comfortable with public speaking now. He doesn't shake anymore when he talks in front of people. Patricia said he's been incredibly helpful for their organization and asked if he'd be interested in helping develop educational materials for middle schools. He said yes. The school board actually implemented some of the changes Marcus suggested. They updated the student handbook to include cyberbullying that originates off campus but affects the school environment. They created an anonymous reporting system. They're requiring all students to complete a digital citizenship course. Marcus got invited back to present the changes at a follow-up meeting. The local newspaper did another article about it. Brenda saw the article. She sent a mass email to the entire family calling me manipulative. She said I was coaching Marcus to play victim for attention. She said I was using his situation to make myself look like some kind of crusader when really I was just bitter and vengeful. She said Charlotte was still suffering from what I did while Marcus was getting praised and featured in newspapers. Most of the family didn't respond to the email. A few people replied, all telling Brenda she needed to let it go. My husband's brother, Tyler's dad, replied and told Brenda she was making herself look worse every time she opened her mouth about this. Tyler, by the way, got his TikTok account permanently banned about 6 weeks ago. Apparently, he had been reported multiple times for harassment and bullying content. He had started making videos about other family members and someone reported them all at once. His account had grown to almost 400,000 followers and he lost all of it overnight. My brother-in-law called my husband to complain about it. He said Tyler was devastated because he'd been making decent money from sponsorships. My husband told him that maybe Tyler should have thought about the consequences before he built his audience on humiliating people. They haven't spoken since. Charlotte ended up enrolling in community college for the spring semester. She's apparently doing okay grade-wise. Brenda posts about her constantly on Facebook, talking about how resilient and strong Charlotte is for overcoming adversity. She never mentions what the adversity actually was. Several family members reached out to apologize to me over the past few months. My husband's cousin said she had taken Brenda's side initially because she only heard Brenda's version of events. She said once she saw the actual screenshots, she understood why I did what I did. 2 of my husband's aunts sent similar messages. But there are still family members who won't talk to me. Brenda's sister stopped acknowledging me at family events. My husband's uncle told someone I was a troublemaker who couldn't let things go. I've accepted that some relationships are just permanently damaged. My mother-in-law has been trying to rebuild things with our family. She comes over for dinner once a week now. She brought Marcus a book about astrophysics last time she visited. She asks him about his projects and actually listens to the answers. She told me privately that she regrets not standing up for him sooner. Marcus rejoined robotics club in January. It took him a while to work up the courage to go back, but his teacher had been emailing him the whole time he was gone, sending him project ideas and checking in. The teacher apparently told the other students that if anyone gave Marcus a hard time about the TikTok situation, they'd be removed from the club permanently. Nobody has bothered him. He's been working on a new project, some kind of automated plant watering system that uses sensors to detect soil moisture. He talks about it at dinner now. Not as much as he used to talk about his projects before all this happened, but more than he did 6 months ago. Liam's friends are allowed to come over again. Turns out most of their parents were never actually upset with us, they just didn't want to get dragged into family drama. Once things calmed down, the kids started hanging out again like nothing happened. Oliver doesn't ask about grandma anymore. He sees her every week, so the question resolved itself. My husband and I are doing better. We went through a rough patch where it felt like we were on opposite sides of the situation. But he's been more supportive lately. He told me last month that he understands why I did what I did, even though he wishes there had been another way. I told him I wish there had been another way too, but I don't regret protecting our son. Brenda sent one final message about 2 weeks ago. She texted me that Charlotte would be transferring to a 4-year university in the fall. She said Charlotte had worked hard to rebuild her academic record and prove she was more than one mistake. She said no thanks to me, Charlotte was getting her life back on track. I didn't respond to that either. Marcus asked me last week if I thought Charlotte actually learned anything from this. I told him I honestly didn't know. I said some people learn from consequences and some people just learn to resent the people who held them accountable. He said he hoped she learned something because otherwise everything that happened was pointless. I don't know if it was pointless. Marcus is speaking up now. He's helping other kids. He's building things again. The school has better policies because of what he went through. Maybe that's enough. People keep asking me if I think I did the right thing. I think I did the only thing I could do. My son was being destroyed and the people who were supposed to protect him were making excuses for the people hurting him. So I stopped them the only way I knew how. Would I do it again? Yes. Would I do it differently? Probably not. The outcome would have been the same no matter how I approached it. Charlotte would have faced consequences for her actions and Brenda would have been angry about it regardless of my methods. Half my family thinks I'm vindictive. The other half thinks I did what I had to do. I've stopped caring which side is right. I just care that Marcus can walk through the hallway at school without his stomach twisting into knots. I care that he's sleeping through the night again. I care that he's building things in the garage. The rest of it, the family drama, the accusations, the burned bridges, it all feels secondary to that. This is probably my last update unless something major changes. Thanks to everyone who read these posts and offered support. It helped more than you know. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My fiancé's sister demanded I use her old wedding decorations. When I refused, she called our wedding planner to cancel my orders. Later I found my fiancé's ex-girlfriend was helping his family plan against me. I never thought I would be writing this post, but here I am at 3 a.m. unable to sleep after what happened today. My fiancé Christian, 29M, and I, 27F, have been together for 4 years and got engaged last September. We set our wedding date for June 2025, which happens to be the anniversary of our first kiss. Let me give you some background about Christian's family. He has one sister, Mila, 32F, who got married 3 years ago to her husband Mark, 34M. Mila has always been the golden child in their family. She's a lawyer, makes good money, and their parents constantly praise everything she does. Christian works as a teacher and his parents often make comments about how he should be more like his sister. When Christian and I started wedding planning in November, everything seemed perfect. We decided on a garden theme with lots of fresh white roses, baby's breath, and greenery. I had always dreamed of having simple, elegant flowers that would photograph beautifully. We found a great florist and put down a deposit for our arrangements. The problem started in December when we went to Christian's parents' house for Sunday dinner. Mila and Mark were there with their twin boys, 2M. During dinner, Mila asked about our wedding plans. I showed her photos of the flower arrangements we had chosen. She looked at them for a long time and then said they reminded her of her own wedding flowers. After dinner, Mila pulled me aside into the kitchen. She told me she still had all her wedding flowers stored in her garage. She had spent a fortune on silk flowers from some expensive designer and wanted to offer them to me for our wedding. She said it would save us thousands of dollars and the flowers were practically brand new since they were artificial. I thanked her for the offer but explained that we had already put down deposits with our florist and I really wanted fresh flowers for our wedding. Mila seemed disappointed but said she understood. I thought that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, Christian came home from work and said his sister had called him. Mila had apparently spent the entire conversation talking about how wasteful it was for us to buy new flowers when she had perfectly good ones sitting unused. She told Christian that when she got married, she specifically bought expensive silk flowers so they could be reused for family weddings. She said she felt hurt that I rejected her generous offer. Christian asked me to reconsider using Mila's flowers. He said his sister had spent over $3,000 on them and they were sitting in storage boxes gathering dust. I explained again that I wanted fresh flowers and had already made arrangements with our florist. Christian dropped the subject, but I could tell he was not happy about it. In January, things got worse. Mila started bringing up the flowers every time we saw her. She would make comments about how expensive fresh flowers were and how they would be dead the next day. She showed me photos from her wedding and kept pointing out how beautiful her arrangements had been. She even brought one of the smaller arrangements to show me when we met for coffee. I have to admit, Mila's flowers were beautiful. They were high-quality silk roses in ivory and blush pink with gold accents. But they were her style, not mine. They were very formal and elaborate, completely different from the simple garden look I wanted. More importantly, they were from her wedding. I wanted our wedding to be about Christian and me, not a repeat of his sister's big day. Mila's pressure continued through February and March. She started involving their mother, Linda, 58F, in the conversation. Linda would make comments about how practical Mila was and how expensive weddings had become. She never directly told me to use the flowers, but her hints were obvious. The situation came to a head 3 weeks ago during Easter dinner at Christian's parents' house. Mila brought up the flowers again in front of the entire family. She said she could not understand why anyone would waste money on fresh flowers when perfectly good artificial ones were available. She mentioned that her friend Sarah had used Mila's flowers for her daughter's wedding and they looked amazing. I finally had enough. I politely but firmly told Mila that I appreciated her offer, but we were keeping our original flower arrangements. I explained that we had already paid deposits and made commitments to our vendors. Mila's face went red and she said I was being stubborn and wasteful. Christian's father, Robert, 60M, tried to change the subject, but Mila kept going. She said I obviously did not care about the family or I would want to use something meaningful from her wedding. She accused me of being selfish and thinking I was too good for her flowers. I stood up from the table and walked outside to get some air. Christian followed me a few minutes later. I expected him to support me and tell me his sister was being unreasonable. Instead, he said maybe we should consider using some of Mila's flowers along with fresh ones as a compromise. I could not believe what I was hearing. I asked Christian if he really wanted his sister's wedding decorations at our wedding. He said the flowers were beautiful and it would make his family happy. He also mentioned that we could save money and use it for other things like our honeymoon. We drove home in silence that night. Over the next few days, Christian kept bringing up the flowers. He said his sister had called him crying because she felt rejected by me. He said his mother thought I was being difficult and that using family items for weddings was a tradition. I tried to explain to Christian that this was not about the money or even the flowers themselves. It was about Mila trying to control our wedding and him not supporting my wishes. I reminded him that we had agreed on our flower arrangements months ago and suddenly he wanted to change everything to please his sister. Christian said I was making too big a deal out of the situation. He said his family was important to him and he wanted everyone to be happy. He asked why I could not just use some of Mila's flowers to keep the peace. Last week, I found out that Christian had been talking to Mila behind my back. She had apparently offered to pay for our entire floral budget if we used her flowers exclusively. She also offered to help coordinate with our wedding planner to incorporate her arrangements into our venue. When I confronted Christian about these conversations, he admitted that his sister had made the offer. He said she was just trying to help and we should be grateful. He could not understand why I was upset about his family wanting to contribute to our wedding. I told Christian that Mila was not trying to help, she was trying to take over our wedding. I said it felt like she wanted our wedding to be a second showing of her own decorations. Christian got angry and said I was being paranoid and ungrateful. The final straw came yesterday. I was at work when I got a call from our wedding planner, Michelle, 40F. She said someone claiming to be Christian's sister had called and tried to cancel our flower arrangements. Mila had told Michelle that there had been a change of plans and we would be using family flowers instead. Fortunately, Michelle knew that only Christian or I could make changes to our contract, so she had not cancelled anything. But she was concerned and wanted to confirm that everything was still on track with our original plans. I was furious. I called Christian immediately and told him what his sister had done. Christian said he would talk to Mila, but he also said maybe this was a sign that we should just use her flowers. He said his sister was clearly passionate about helping with our wedding and we should let her. That evening, Christian came home and said he had spoken to Mila. According to him, she had only called the wedding planner to offer her help, not to cancel anything. He said there had been a misunderstanding and Mila was just trying to be supportive. I told Christian that calling our vendors without permission was not supportive, it was controlling and inappropriate. I said I wanted him to tell his sister to stop interfering with our wedding plans. Christian said I was overreacting and that Mila meant well. We had a huge argument that lasted until midnight. Christian kept saying that his family was important to him and he wanted them to feel included in our wedding. I kept saying that our wedding should be about what we wanted, not what his sister wanted. Christian finally said that maybe we should postpone the wedding until we could figure things out. He said if I could not get along with his family, maybe we were not ready to get married. I was shocked that he would even suggest postponing our wedding over flowers. This morning, Christian left for work without saying goodbye. When I got to my office, I found an email from Mila. She had sent me links to photos of weddings that used her flower arrangements. She wrote that she hoped I would reconsider and that she just wanted to help make our day special. I have not responded to Mila's email. I have not spoken to Christian since our argument last night. I keep thinking about whether I am being unreasonable, but I also feel like this is about more than just flowers. It feels like Mila wants to control our wedding and Christian is letting her. Am I wrong for refusing to use my future sister-in-law's wedding flowers? Should I just give in to keep the peace, or am I right to stand my ground? Update 1. I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. Your comments helped me realize that I was not crazy or unreasonable. What happened over the past 3 weeks has been eye-opening and honestly quite shocking. After I posted, I decided to have one more serious conversation with Christian about the flower situation and his family's behavior. I waited until the weekend when we both had time to talk without distractions. I sat Christian down and calmly explained how his sister's actions made me feel. I told him that calling our wedding planner crossed a major line and that I needed him to set boundaries with Mila. I said that if we were going to get married, he needed to prioritize our relationship over his family's demands. Christian listened but then said something that really surprised me. He told me that his family had been having conversations about me since we got engaged. According to him, they were concerned that I was not a good fit for their family because I was too independent and did not respect family traditions. I asked Christian what family traditions he was talking about. He explained that in his family, the women always helped each other with weddings and other major events. He said Mila had helped plan their cousin's wedding 2 years ago and had expected to be more involved in ours. I pointed out that Mila had never asked to help plan our wedding, she had only demanded that we use her flowers. Christian said that using family items for weddings was important to his parents and that I should have understood this without being told. We went back and forth for over an hour. Christian kept saying that his family felt excluded from our wedding planning and that I needed to make more effort to include them. I kept explaining that we had included them in appropriate ways but that the final decisions about our wedding should be ours to make. Finally, Christian said something that made me realize how serious this situation had become. He told me that his parents had suggested we should consider couples counseling before getting married. They apparently felt that my unwillingness to compromise on the flowers showed deeper problems in our relationship. I was stunned. I asked Christian if he agreed with his parents' assessment. He was quiet for a long time and then said that maybe they had a point. He said that marriage was about compromise and that I seemed unwilling to bend on anything important to his family. I told Christian that I had compromised on many things during our wedding planning. We were having the ceremony at a church his family preferred instead of the outdoor venue I wanted. We had included several family traditions in our ceremony that were important to his parents. We had even agreed to serve his grandmother's cake recipe instead of flavors we preferred. Christian seemed surprised when I listed all these compromises. He said he had not realized I had given up things I wanted for his family. But then he said that made it even more important for me to compromise on the flowers since his sister cared so much about them. I could not believe he was still not getting it. I explained that there was a difference between reasonable compromises and being bullied into using someone else's wedding decorations. I said that Mila's behavior was not normal and that he should be protecting me from her interference, not enabling it. Christian got defensive and said I was being dramatic. He said his sister was just enthusiastic and wanted to help. He accused me of disliking his family and said that would be a problem throughout our marriage. Our conversation ended badly with both of us going to bed angry. Over the next few days, Christian was distant and cold. He stopped talking about wedding plans and seemed to be avoiding the topic entirely. A week after our big conversation, I found out what was really going on. Christian's coworker Tom, 31M, called me on a Tuesday evening. Tom and Christian had been friends since college, and he had always been friendly to me. Tom said he needed to tell me something important. Apparently, Christian had been complaining about me to several people at work. Tom said Christian had been saying that I was difficult and controlling, and that his family was concerned about our relationship. But that was not the worst part. Tom told me that Christian had also been talking to his ex-girlfriend Emma, 28F, about our problems. Emma had apparently been very sympathetic and had been giving Christian advice about dealing with difficult partners. I asked Tom how he knew about Christian's conversations with Emma. Tom said that Emma had started showing up at work events and social gatherings where Christian would be present. Other people had noticed that Christian and Emma were spending a lot of time talking privately. Tom said he felt he needed to tell me because Emma had made some comments that suggested she thought Christian might break up with me. She had apparently told someone that Christian was realizing he needed a partner who got along better with his family. I thanked Tom for telling me and spent the rest of the evening trying to process this information. Christian had been discussing our private relationship problems with his ex-girlfriend and had not said a word to me about reconnecting with her. The next day, I decided to do some investigating on my own. I checked Christian's social media accounts and found that he had been liking and commenting on Emma's posts for the past month. Some of his comments were flirty and inappropriate for someone in a committed relationship. I also noticed that Emma had been posting photos from events that Christian had attended. In several photos, they were standing close together and looking very comfortable with each other. When Christian came home from work that Wednesday, I confronted him about Tom's call and what I had found on social media. Christian initially denied that anything inappropriate was happening with Emma. He said they were just friends and that he needed someone to talk to about our relationship problems. I asked Christian why he had not come to me with his concerns instead of discussing them with his ex-girlfriend. He said I was not open to hearing criticism and that Emma was a neutral party who could give him objective advice. I pointed out that Emma was hardly neutral since she was his ex-girlfriend and had a history with him. Christian got angry and said I was being jealous and possessive. He said he should be allowed to have female friends and that my reaction proved his family was right about me being controlling. I asked Christian if he wanted to continue our relationship or if he would rather be with Emma. He said that was not the question and that I was trying to distract from the real issues in our relationship. We argued for hours. Christian kept saying that the problem was my attitude toward his family and my unwillingness to compromise. I kept saying that the problem was his inability to set boundaries with his family and his inappropriate relationship with his ex-girlfriend. Finally, Christian said something that made everything clear. He told me that Emma had said she would have been happy to use Mila's flowers if she were in my position. He said Emma understood the importance of family harmony and knew how to make people feel included and valued. I realized that Christian was not just getting advice from Emma, he was comparing me to her and finding me lacking. He was using his ex-girlfriend as an example of the kind of partner he thought he deserved. I told Christian that if he thought Emma was such a wonderful person, maybe he should be with her instead of me. Christian said I was being ridiculous and that he loved me, but he needed me to work on my relationship with his family. The conversation ended with Christian sleeping in the guest room. The next morning, he left for work early and I did not see him until that evening. When Christian came home Thursday night, he had apparently spoken to his family about our fight. He said his parents wanted to have dinner with both of us over the weekend to discuss our relationship and try to work things out. I told Christian that I was not interested in having my relationship analyzed by his parents. I said that our problems were between us and that involving his family would only make things worse. Christian said his parents were just trying to help and that I needed to be more open to their input. He said that rejecting their invitation would confirm their concerns about my attitude toward the family. I asked Christian what would happen if I refused to go to dinner with his parents. He was quiet for a moment and then said that would be very disappointing and would probably cause more problems between us. I realized that Christian was essentially giving me an ultimatum. I could either submit to being interrogated by his family about my worthiness as his partner, or face consequences in our relationship. That night, I made a decision. I told Christian that I would not be attending dinner with his parents and that I needed some time to think about our relationship. I said I was going to stay with my sister for the weekend. Christian seemed shocked that I was actually leaving. He said I was overreacting and making our problems worse by running away. He begged me to stay and work things out, but I had already packed a bag. As I was walking out the door, Christian said something that I will never forget. He told me that if I left, his family would see it as proof that I was not committed to our relationship. He said I was making a choice that would be hard to come back from. I told Christian that he had been making choices too, and that maybe it was time for both of us to face the consequences of our decisions. I have been staying with my sister for the past week. Christian has called and texted several times, but our conversations have not been productive. He keeps saying that I need to come home and work on our relationship, but he has not acknowledged any of the issues I raised about his family's behavior or his inappropriate friendship with Emma. Yesterday, my sister told me that she thought I deserved better than a man who would not stand up for me against his family. She said that watching Christian choose his sister's demands over my wishes had been painful to witness. I know that many people will say I should try harder to work things out with Christian. But I am starting to wonder if this situation has revealed fundamental incompatibilities between us that cannot be fixed. Update 2: The past month has been a roller coaster, and I need to update you all on what has happened. Some of you guessed that there was more to the story with Christian and Emma, and unfortunately, you were right. I stayed with my sister for 2 weeks after my last update. During that time, Christian called me every day asking me to come home. He kept saying that we could work things out if I would just be willing to compromise. He also mentioned several times that his family was worried about me and wanted to help save our relationship. After a week of these calls, I agreed to meet Christian for coffee to talk. I thought maybe some time apart had given him perspective on how his family had been treating me and how inappropriate his relationship with Emma had become. When we met, Christian seemed genuinely sorry. He apologized for not supporting me better with his family and said he understood why I had been upset about the flowers. He promised that he would talk to Mila and set better boundaries. Christian also addressed the Emma situation. He said that he realized talking to his ex-girlfriend about our problems had been wrong and that he had already told her they needed to limit their contact. He said he wanted to focus on our relationship and make things work. I was cautiously hopeful. Christian seemed to understand the issues I had raised, and he was saying all the right things. We talked for 3 hours, and by the end of the conversation, I agreed to come home and work on our relationship. The first week back was actually good. Christian was attentive and affectionate. He made dinner several nights and planned activities for us to do together. He also called Mila and told her that we would not be using her flowers and that she needed to stop contacting our wedding vendors. Mila did not take this news well. She called Christian multiple times that week, and I could hear her yelling through the phone. Christian handled it better than I expected though. He stayed firm and told his sister that our wedding decisions were final. I started to think that maybe we had turned a corner. Christian seemed to be prioritizing our relationship over his family's demands, and I began to feel hopeful about our future again. But then I found the text messages. It happened by accident. Christian had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. His phone buzzed with a text, and I glanced over to see who it was from. The message was from Emma, and I could see the preview of what she had written. The text said something about missing him and hoping he was okay dealing with his family situation. I knew I should not look at his phone, but something about the tone of the message bothered me. I picked up the phone and saw that Christian and Emma had been texting regularly for the past month, including during the 2 weeks when I was staying with my sister. The messages started out seeming innocent enough, Emma asking how Christian was doing and offering support during our relationship problems. But as I scrolled through more messages, I found conversations that were definitely not appropriate for someone in a committed relationship. Emma had sent Christian photos of herself at various events, and he had responded with compliments about how beautiful she looked. There were also messages where Emma was clearly flirting with Christian. She had sent him messages saying she had been thinking about their time together in college and wondering what would have happened if they had not broken up. Christian had not shut down these conversations, instead, he had been flirting back. The worst messages were from the week before I came home. Emma had written to Christian saying that she thought he deserved someone who appreciated him and got along with his family. She said that some people were just not cut out for the kind of close family relationships that Christian valued. Christian had responded by saying that he was trying to make things work with me but that it was hard when someone did not understand family loyalty. He had also written that he sometimes wondered if he had made the right choice in who he decided to build a life with. I was reading these messages when Christian came out of the bathroom. He saw me with his phone and immediately got angry. He said I had violated his privacy and that looking through his phone showed I did not trust him. I told Christian that his text messages with Emma showed I was right not to trust him. I read him some of the messages I had found, including the ones where they were flirting and where he was questioning our relationship. Christian tried to minimize what I had found. He said that Emma was just being supportive and that he had not meant anything serious by his responses. He said that venting to a friend was not the same as being unfaithful. I asked Christian how he would feel if I had been sending flirty messages to my ex-boyfriend and telling him that I wondered if I had chosen the wrong person to marry. Christian said that was different because Emma understood him in ways that I did not. That response told me everything I needed to know. Christian was not sorry about his emotional affair with Emma, he was sorry that I had found out about it. We had a huge fight that lasted most of the night. Christian kept insisting that he had not done anything wrong and that I was overreacting to innocent conversations with a friend. I kept pointing out that the messages were not innocent and that he had been emotionally cheating on me while pretending to work on our relationship. During the fight, Christian said something that really hurt. He told me that Emma had never given him the kind of problems that I had given him. He said Emma got along great with his family and that his parents had always liked her better than me. I asked Christian if he wanted to be with Emma instead of me. He said no, but then he added that sometimes he wondered if his life would be easier with someone who did not create drama with his family. I realized that Christian saw me as the problem in every situation. His sister's inappropriate behavior was my fault for not being accommodating enough. His emotional affair with Emma was my fault for not being understanding enough. His family's interference in our relationship was my fault for not being grateful enough. The next morning, I told Christian that I was going back to my sister's house and that I needed time to think about whether our relationship could be saved. Christian begged me not to leave again and promised that he would cut off contact with Emma completely. I told Christian that the Emma situation was just one part of our problems. I said that until he could recognize how his family had been treating me and take responsibility for his own actions, we could not move forward. Christian got angry and said that I was using the Emma situation as an excuse to avoid working on my relationship with his family. He said that if I really loved him, I would be willing to forgive his mistakes and focus on building a future together. I packed another bag and left. That was 3 weeks ago, and I have been staying with my sister ever since. During these 3 weeks, I have learned even more about what was happening behind my back. My friend Sarah, 29F, works at the same company as Christian, and she told me that Christian and Emma had been seen having lunch together multiple times over the past 2 months. Sarah also told me that other people at Christian's work had been talking about his relationship problems and that Emma had been very vocal about her opinions on the situation. According to Sarah, Emma had told several people that Christian's fiancée was controlling and that she did not understand why he stayed with someone who made him so unhappy. I also found out that Mila had been in contact with Emma. My future sister-in-law had apparently reached out to Christian's ex-girlfriend to get her perspective on me and our relationship. Emma had told Mila that she thought Christian deserved better and that some people were just not family-oriented. When I learned about Mila and Emma's conversations, I realized that Christian's family had been working against our relationship for months. They had been talking to his ex-girlfriend about me and using her opinions to validate their own negative feelings about me. Christian has continued to call and text me over the past 3 weeks. He keeps saying that he misses me and wants to work things out. He has promised to go to couples counseling and to set better boundaries with his family. But Christian has not acknowledged the extent of his emotional affair with Emma or taken responsibility for how his family has treated me. He still seems to think that our problems are mainly my fault for not being more flexible and understanding. Yesterday, Christian showed up at my sister's house unannounced. He said he needed to see me in person and that we could not solve our problems over the phone. Christian told me that he had ended his friendship with Emma and that he was committed to making our relationship work. He said he loved me and wanted to marry me, but that I needed to meet him halfway. I asked Christian what meeting him halfway looked like. He said that I needed to accept his family as they are and stop expecting them to change. He said that his family would always be important to him and that I needed to find a way to get along with them. I told Christian that getting along with his family was different from allowing them to control our relationship and interfere with our wedding. I said that I had tried to build relationships with his family members, but that I would not tolerate being disrespected or manipulated. Christian said that his family had never disrespected me and that I was being oversensitive. He said that Mila offering her flowers was a gesture of love and that I had misinterpreted her intentions. I realized that after everything that had happened, Christian still did not understand the real issues in our relationship. He was still minimizing his family's behavior and making excuses for his own actions. I told Christian that I could not marry someone who would not protect me from his family's interference and who had emotionally cheated on me with his ex-girlfriend. Christian said I was being unfair and that everyone makes mistakes. Christian left my sister's house angry and disappointed. He sent me a long text message later that night saying that he was tired of trying to convince me to save our relationship and that maybe we both needed to accept that we were not compatible. I have not responded to Christian's text message. I have been thinking about everything that has happened over the past 6 months and trying to decide what I want to do next. Part of me still loves Christian and wishes things could work out between us. But I am starting to realize that the man I fell in love with might not be the man I was actually in a relationship with. Update 3: I want to thank everyone who has followed my story and offered support over the past few months. This will be my final update because I have made some decisions about my life and I am ready to move forward. After Christian's visit to my sister's house 6 weeks ago, I did not hear from him for 2 weeks. I was actually relieved to have some space to think without constant calls and messages from him. During those 2 weeks, I spent a lot of time talking to my family and close friends about everything that had happened. My sister pointed out that Christian had never once in our entire relationship stood up to his family when they were wrong. She reminded me of several occasions over the years when his parents or Mila had made inappropriate comments or demands, and Christian had always expected me to just accept their behavior. My mom also shared some observations that I had not considered before. She said that she had noticed how Christian would change his opinions based on what his family thought, and that he seemed to need their approval for major decisions in his life. I started to realize that the flower situation had not been an isolated incident, it was part of a pattern of behavior that I had been overlooking for years. 2 weeks after Christian's visit, he called me to say that he missed me and wanted to try again. He said he had been thinking about our problems and was ready to make some changes. He asked if we could meet for dinner to talk. I agreed to meet Christian, but I told him that I was not promising anything. I said that I needed to see real changes in his attitude and behavior before I would consider getting back together. We met at a restaurant that we had been to many times during our relationship. Christian seemed nervous and kept apologizing for how things had gone between us. He said that he realized he had made mistakes and that he wanted to do better. Christian told me that he had been talking to his family about our relationship problems. He said that his parents and Mila now understood that they had been too involved in our wedding planning and that they were willing to step back. I asked Christian what specifically his family had said they would do differently. He said that Mila had agreed not to contact our wedding vendors anymore and that his parents had promised not to pressure me about family traditions. I pointed out that these were things they should never have been doing in the first place. I said that agreeing to stop inappropriate behavior was not the same as acknowledging that the behavior had been wrong. Christian seemed frustrated by my response. He said that his family was trying to make things right and that I needed to give them credit for being willing to change. I asked Christian if his family had apologized for their behavior or acknowledged how their actions had affected me. Christian was quiet for a moment and then said that they felt like there had been misunderstandings on both sides. I realized that Christian's family still did not think they had done anything wrong. They were willing to modify their behavior to save Christian's relationship, but they had not actually changed their attitudes about me or acknowledged the harm they had caused. I also asked Christian about Emma. He said that he had told her they could not be friends anymore and that he had blocked her number. He seemed to think that cutting off contact with Emma was enough to address the emotional affair. I asked Christian if he understood why his relationship with Emma had been inappropriate and hurtful to me. He said that he knew I was upset about it, but that he had never intended to hurt me. He said that Emma had just been someone he could talk to when things were difficult between us. I explained to Christian that having an emotional affair was not just about intentions, it was about choices. I said that he had chosen to share intimate details about our relationship with another woman and had chosen to flirt with her while we were having problems. Christian said that he understood my perspective, but that he thought we should focus on moving forward instead of dwelling on past mistakes. I realized that Christian was still not taking full responsibility for his actions. He was sorry that I was hurt, but he was not sorry for the choices he had made. During our dinner conversation, Christian kept steering the discussion toward logistics. He wanted to know if I was ready to come home and start planning our wedding again. He said that we had already lost deposits with some vendors and that we needed to make decisions soon if we wanted to get married in June. I told Christian that I was not ready to make any decisions about our wedding. I said that we had serious relationship issues that needed to be addressed before we could think about getting married. Christian seemed impatient with this response. He said that we had been talking about our problems for months and that at some point we needed to either move forward or move on. I asked Christian what moving forward looked like to him. He said that it meant me coming home, us getting back to wedding planning, and both of us making an effort to put our problems behind us. I realized that Christian's idea of moving forward was for me to pretend that nothing had happened and go back to the way things were before. He was not interested in actually addressing the underlying issues in our relationship. After dinner, Christian walked me to my car. He asked if I was ready to come home and said that he missed having me there. I told him that I was not ready and that I needed more time to think. Christian got frustrated and said that he did not understand what else I needed from him. He said that he had apologized, promised to set boundaries with his family, and ended his friendship with Emma. He asked what more I could possibly want. I told Christian that I wanted a partner who would protect me from his family's inappropriate behavior without me having to ask. I wanted someone who would be loyal to our relationship and not run to his ex-girlfriend when we had problems. I wanted a man who could take responsibility for his actions without making excuses. Christian said that I was asking for perfection and that everyone makes mistakes. He said that if I could not forgive him and move on, then maybe we were not meant to be together. I drove home to my sister's house that night thinking about what Christian had said. Over the next few days, I kept coming back to his comment about perfection. Christian seemed to think that my expectations were unreasonable, but I was not asking for perfection, I was asking for basic respect and loyalty. Last week, I made my final decision. I called Christian and told him that I was ending our engagement. I said that I could not marry someone who did not understand why his family's behavior had been inappropriate or why his emotional affair had been hurtful. Christian was shocked. He said that he thought we were working toward getting back together and that he could not believe I was giving up on our relationship. He begged me to reconsider and said that he would do anything to make things work. I told Christian that the problem was not that he was unwilling to do things differently, the problem was that he did not understand why things needed to be different. I said that we had fundamental disagreements about loyalty, boundaries, and respect that could not be fixed with promises or behavior modifications. Christian got angry and said that I was making a huge mistake. He said that relationships required compromise and that I was being stubborn and unforgiving. He accused me of looking for excuses to end our relationship instead of fighting for it. I told Christian that I had been fighting for our relationship for months, but that I could not fight alone. I said that I deserved a partner who would fight for me too. Christian hung up on me after that conversation. He sent me several angry text messages over the next few days, but I did not respond to them. Yesterday, I heard from my friend Sarah that Christian and Emma were seen having dinner together. Sarah said that they seemed very comfortable with each other and that Emma was wearing what looked like an engagement ring. I was not surprised by this news. I think Christian and Emma deserve each other, and I hope they will be very happy together dealing with his family's demands and expectations. I have started the process of canceling our remaining wedding vendors and getting refunds where possible. Some of the deposits are non-refundable, but my parents have offered to help cover those losses. They said they would rather lose some money than see me marry the wrong person. Mila called me 3 days ago. She said she had heard about the broken engagement and wanted to talk. I almost did not answer the phone, but curiosity got the better of me. Mila told me that she was sorry things had not worked out between Christian and me. She said that she had always liked me and thought I was good for her brother. I was surprised by this comment since she had spent months trying to control our wedding and had been talking to Emma behind my back. I asked Mila why she had been so insistent about the flowers if she really thought I was good for Christian. She said that the flowers were important to her because they represented family tradition and continuity. She said she had not meant to cause problems between Christian and me. Mila also told me that she had heard Christian was spending time with Emma again. She said she was concerned because she remembered that Emma had caused drama in their family before. She said that Emma had always been manipulative and had tried to turn Christian against his family during their previous relationship. I found it interesting that Mila was now criticizing Emma when she had been talking to her about me just a few months ago. I asked Mila about her conversations with Emma during our engagement. Mila seemed surprised that I knew about those conversations. She admitted that she had reached out to Emma but said she had only been trying to understand what was happening with Christian. She said that Emma had told her I was difficult and controlling, and that Mila had believed her because Christian seemed so unhappy. I told Mila that Emma had been having an emotional affair with Christian while we were engaged and that her brother had been confiding in his ex-girlfriend about our relationship problems. Mila was quiet for a long time and then said she had not known about that. Mila said that she felt bad about how things had turned out and that she wished she had handled the flower situation differently. She said that she hoped we could still be friends even though Christian and I were no longer together. I told Mila that I did not think we could be friends, but that I appreciated her call. I said that I hoped she would think more carefully about interfering in Christian's future relationships. After I hung up with Mila, I realized that she was probably calling because she was already having problems with Emma. I suspect that Emma is not as easy to manipulate as Mila had expected, and that she is causing new drama in their family. I have also heard through mutual friends that Christian's parents are not happy about his renewed relationship with Emma. Apparently, they remember the problems Emma caused in their family years ago and are concerned that Christian is making a mistake. I find it ironic that Christian's family is now experiencing the drama that Emma brings, especially since they had been so critical of me for not getting along with them better. I wonder if they are starting to understand that the problem was not with me. My sister has been incredibly supportive throughout this entire process. She helped me move my things out of the apartment Christian and I shared and has been there whenever I needed to talk. She keeps reminding me that I made the right decision and that I deserve better than what Christian was offering. I have also been spending more time with friends who I had neglected during my relationship with Christian. I realized that I had been isolating myself from my support system because Christian's family demanded so much of our time and energy. Last weekend, my friends threw me a small party to celebrate my newfound freedom. They said they had been worried about me during my engagement but had not known how to express their concerns. Several of them said they had noticed that Christian never stood up for me when his family was being difficult. I am planning to use some of the money I saved from canceling the wedding to take a vacation with my sister. We are going to Europe for 2 weeks, which is something I have always wanted to do but never could afford while saving for a wedding. I have also started looking for a new apartment. Living with my sister has been wonderful, but I am ready to have my own space again. I found a cute one-bedroom place near my work that I can afford on my own salary. Looking back on my relationship with Christian, I can see all the red flags that I ignored or rationalized away. He was always more concerned with keeping his family happy than with protecting our relationship. He never learned to set appropriate boundaries with his parents or sister, and he expected me to adjust to their demands rather than asking them to respect our autonomy as a couple. The situation with Emma showed me that Christian was not capable of the kind of loyalty and commitment that marriage requires. When our relationship hit a rough patch, instead of working with me to solve our problems, he turned to another woman for emotional support and validation. I think Christian genuinely believed that he loved me, but he was not willing to do the work that love requires. He wanted me to fit into his family's expectations rather than building a new family unit with me based on mutual respect and shared values. I am not bitter about the end of our relationship. I learned a lot about myself and what I want in a partner. I also learned that it is better to end an engagement than to marry someone who cannot prioritize your relationship above all others. Some people have asked me if I regret not trying harder to make things work with Christian. I do not regret my decision at all. I gave that relationship everything I had, and Christian was not willing to meet me halfway. I know that some people will say I was too picky or that I should have been more understanding of Christian's family dynamics. But I believe that everyone deserves a partner who will stand up for them and protect their relationship from outside interference. I am looking forward to building a life that is truly my own. I want to focus on my career, my friendships, and my own happiness for a while. When I am ready to date again, I will look for someone who understands that marriage means creating a new family unit together, not just adding another person to an existing family structure. Thank you again to everyone who supported me through this difficult time. Your comments and messages helped me realize that I was not crazy or unreasonable for expecting better treatment from my partner and his family. I am closing this chapter of my life and looking forward to whatever comes next.